The alien marketplace was alive with noise, bright lights, and the smell of strange foods. Creatures of all shapes and sizes shouted their bids, laughed, and pushed each other. Among them, a young alien woman stood on a raised platform chained at her wrists and ankles. Her skin shimmered like silver under the harsh lights, but her eyes were wide with fear. She looked around desperately, searching for a face that could help her, but everyone only stared and pointed. "Next!" shouted the auctioneer, a tall, thin alien with 3 eyes. He waved his clawed hands toward her. "This one is rare, only for the most refined bidder. A pleasure animal, fresh and obedient." The crowd roared with excitement. Some clapped, others banged their claws on the metal rails. The woman swallowed hard, her heart beating fast. She had heard stories of what happened to those who were sold as pleasure animals. She did not want to imagine it for herself. The auctioneer raised a mechanical device in the air. It glowed and scanned her, checking her health, her strength, and her obedience. The numbers flashed in green and red. "Starting bid, 50,000 credits," he shouted. The first bidders raised their claws. She bit her lip, afraid that she would be taken by the cruelest of them all. A middle-aged man stood at the edge of the crowd. He was different from the others. His clothes were simple, dark green and brown, and his hair was short and plain. He did not yell or push. He watched quietly, his face calm. The woman noticed him and wondered why he did not seem cruel like the rest. Something in his calm eyes made her hope. The auctioneer scanned the crowd again. "Do I hear 60,000? 70? Come on, do not be shy." The bidders shouted higher numbers. Some of them laughed at the woman, making her stomach twist. She wanted to run, but she was chained. Her heart pounded. She could feel the cold metal bite into her wrists. Then the middle-aged man raised a small device. A soft glow came from it. The auctioneer looked surprised. 100,000 credits? He shouted, his 3 eyes blinking. The crowd gasped. This was far higher than anyone expected. Murmurs filled the marketplace. The woman stared at the man. He did not smile or laugh. He just nodded calmly as if he were choosing something precious, not a toy. The chains around her wrists and ankles clicked as the auctioneer released them. "Sold," he shouted. "To the human!" The crowd erupted in cheers and boos. Some shouted that he was foolish. Others said he was brave. The woman stepped down, her legs shaky. She did not know if she could trust him yet. He offered his hand and she hesitated, looking into his eyes. Finally, she took it. It was warm, steady, and gentle. The man led her through the marketplace. The crowd parted for him, whispering and staring. The woman's heart raced. She expected him to take her to a small, dark room. She expected cruelty. But instead he walked her past the noisy stalls out into a quiet street. The lights of the marketplace faded behind them. The smell of food and smoke was replaced by the clean air of the open sky. They reached a small vehicle waiting nearby. It looked plain but strong. The man opened the door for her. She stepped inside, still nervous. He did not touch her in a wrong way. He only smiled softly. "You are free to speak," he said. "You are free to move." "I do not want to hurt you." She blinked, surprised. I do not understand," she said, her voice shaking. "Why did you buy me? Why not leave me there?" He looked out the window, watching the crowded marketplace disappear. "Because not everything is for sale. Some things, some lives, deserve respect, and I do not buy what I do not care about." His voice was calm but strong. She felt a strange warmth in her chest. Could a human really be this kind? She had never seen it before. The vehicle moved smoothly over the dusty road. The marketplace was far behind them now. She sat quietly, unsure what to say. He did not force conversation. Instead, he drove calmly, looking at the stars above. The silence was comfortable, not frightening. Then suddenly a shadow passed over the road. A creature, large and fast, jumped in front of the vehicle. The woman screamed and tried to open the door, but the man's hand was on the controls. He swerved the vehicle, narrowly avoiding the creature. It growled and ran after them, but they were already speeding away. The woman clutched the seat, her eyes wide. "What was that?" she gasped. He smiled slightly. "A test, perhaps," he said. "Or just the dangers of this planet. You will see many things out there, but you are safe with me." For the first time, she felt a small spark of trust. Maybe not everything in the galaxy was cruel. Maybe, just maybe, humans could be different. The vehicle drove into the night, carrying them away from the cruel crowd, away from the marketplace, and into a future neither of them could yet imagine. The vehicle moved smoothly over the desert planet's endless sands. The sky above was painted in dark purple and red, with two suns sinking slowly behind the dunes. The young alien woman sat stiffly beside the man, her silver skin glowing faintly in the dim cabin lights. Her hands rested on her knees. She did not speak much, but her eyes followed every movement, every shadow outside the vehicle. Fear still lingered in her chest. The man glanced at her. "You don't have to be afraid," he said calmly. "I won't let anything happen to you." She looked at him skeptically. "I don't know you. How can I trust you?" He smiled gently. "You will see. Trust is built, not given. I only ask for your patience." The vehicle rolled over a large dune, and the wind outside howled like a pack of wild beasts. The woman tightened her grip on the seat. Suddenly, a shadow passed across the cabin window. She gasped. "Something is out there." The man's eyes narrowed. "Hold on," he said. The vehicle swerved sharply. A massive creature, its skin dark and covered in spikes, leapt across the sand. It landed on the dune beside them, its claws scraping the metal. Its glowing eyes locked onto the vehicle. The woman screamed and pressed herself against the seat. The man kept driving, his hands steady on the controls. The creature roared and started running beside them, keeping pace with incredible speed. Dust flew into the cabin vents. "Faster!" the woman shouted. "It's going to catch us." The man did not panic. He shifted gears and the vehicle leapt over another dune. The creature's claws scraped the rear bumper, leaving deep scratches in the metal. Sparks flew. The woman's heart pounded. She had never seen a human react like this. He was calm, focused, and fearless. After several tense minutes, the creature finally fell behind, disappearing into the desert haze. The woman exhaled shakily. I thought we were finished," she said. The man glanced at her. "You are stronger than you think. And we have a long way to go. Many dangers lie ahead, but together we will survive." She looked out the window, watching the dunes roll endlessly. "Why are you helping me?" she asked softly. "No one else would care." "Everyone else. They only want to use me," he hesitated. "Because some lives are worth more than wealth or power. And because I believe in something humans call compassion. It is rare in this galaxy, but it is real." His voice was steady, full of conviction. She stared at him, unsure what to think. The vehicle continued, moving toward a range of jagged mountains on the horizon. The desert winds whipped harder, carrying sand that stung her skin. She pulled a scarf over her face. The man noticed and offered her a cloak from the storage compartment. She accepted silently, feeling the warmth it offered. Hours passed and the desert grew darker. Strange sounds echoed across the dunes, howls, screeches, and the occasional roar of unseen predators. The woman's eyes darted nervously. Every shadow seemed alive. Every wind gust felt like a threat. She shivered despite the cloak. The man's hand rested lightly on the console. "Do you want to know what's out there?" he asked. "I can tell you, or you can wait and see for yourself." She hesitated. Curiosity battled fear inside her. "Tell me," she whispered finally. "There are creatures that hunt in packs. Some are fast, others are strong. Some can see in the dark, some smell fear like a scent. But most of them avoid humans who are careful and clever, and that's why I drive carefully." He smiled faintly, but there was steel in his eyes. The woman nodded. She felt a strange mix of fear and admiration. This human, who could have been like everyone else, was different. He fought not just for himself, but for her too. She could not explain the spark of hope she felt. Suddenly, the vehicle's sensors beeped urgently. Red lights flashed. A sandstorm was forming ahead, faster than expected. The man's eyes narrowed. "We need to reach shelter now," he shouted. The woman gripped the seat as the wind began to batter the vehicle. Sand whipped across the windshield. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. The vehicle jumped over dunes, slipping and sliding. Rocks scratched the undercarriage. The woman held her breath as a massive gust nearly tipped them over. The man spoke calmly, almost to himself. "Steady, steady. Hold on." Finally, through the blinding storm, they saw a dark opening in the mountains, a cave large enough for the vehicle. The man steered toward it. The vehicle slid across the sand, scraping against stone, but it entered safely. Inside, the storm's roar was muffled. The woman exhaled in relief, her knees shaking. The man turned to her. "We are safe for now," he said. "Rest here. Tomorrow we continue." She looked at him, her eyes wide. Why do you care so much?" she asked, her voice trembling. He smiled softly. Because you are not just a commodity. You are a life, and all lives matter. For the first time, the woman felt something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. Maybe, just maybe, humans were not cruel like the others. Maybe there was a future beyond chains, beyond fear. And for the first time, she dared to believe that she might live, truly live in a world that was dangerous, yes, but also full of people who could choose kindness. Outside the cave, the desert storm raged on, but inside for a moment, there was safety, warmth, and the strange, fragile trust between two unlikely companions. The cave was quiet now, except for the occasional echo of wind from the desert outside. The vehicle had stopped, and the man stepped out first, opening the door for the young alien woman. She hesitated at the threshold, her legs trembling, her chains gone, but the memory of them still fresh in her mind. She felt small, fragile, and uncertain. He gestured toward a small fire he had started inside the cave. Its glow cast long shadows on the jagged walls. "Sit," he said gently. "You must be tired." She sat on a flat stone near the fire, hugging her knees to her chest. Her silver skin seemed to shimmer even in the dim light. I don't know what to do," she whispered. "Everything I've known. It has been pain, chains, fear. How can I trust anyone now?" He knelt in front of her, keeping a careful distance, respectful of her space. "You don't have to trust me immediately," he said calmly. "Trust is earned. All I ask is that you see my actions, not just hear my words." She looked at him, studying the lines of his face, the steadiness in his eyes. Something about his calm presence made her heart beat slow. Why did you save me?" she asked softly. "No one else cared. Everyone else only saw me as a thing," he sighed, staring into the fire. "Because some things are more important than power or money. Because I believe in protecting those who cannot protect themselves. And because cruelty is easy, but kindness takes courage." Her eyes widened slightly. Kindness. She had heard the word but never felt it. Could it really exist in this galaxy? She swallowed, uncertain. The cave was filled with a tense silence, only broken by the crackling of the fire. She watched him closely, unsure whether to speak further. Her mind was full of questions, doubts, and memories she wished she could forget. Finally, she asked, Do you ever fear me? That I might hurt you?" He shook his head slowly. "No, I only fear the world around us. And I trust that you are more than the circumstances you were born into. You are strong, you are smart, and you have survived far more than I could imagine." She looked down at her hands. The scars of past abuse were hidden beneath her silver skin, but she knew they were there. He had not flinched at them. He had not recoiled. He had only accepted. The firelight danced across his face as he continued. "You may not see it now, but every choice you make can shape your future. You don't have to be what they want you to be. You can be yourself." She swallowed hard, a lump forming in her throat. I don't know who I am anymore," she admitted. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper, but it carried the weight of years of pain. He smiled gently. "Then we will discover it together. I do not expect you to change overnight. We have time, and I will not force you. You are free to decide always." The woman studied him. His words were strange, foreign, yet comforting. No one had ever spoken like this to her. No one had ever treated her as a person. She felt a tiny spark of hope flicker inside her chest. Could it be possible that a human could see her as more than property? The silence stretched between them, but it was no longer uncomfortable. It was a quiet understanding, a fragile bridge forming between two very different beings. She realized that for the first time, she did not feel entirely alone. Outside, the desert winds howled and the stars blinked above the jagged mountains. Inside the cave, the fire's warmth surrounded them. The man reached into his pack and pulled out a small ration of food. "Eat," he said simply. "You need strength." She hesitated, but her stomach rumbled. Slowly, she took the food. He handed her water. "You do not need to speak if you do not wish," he said. "Just eat. Your body deserves care." She nodded slightly, tasting the food. It was simple but warm. She had not eaten like this in a long time, not in safety, not in peace. The small act of kindness struck her deeply. After a few moments, she dared to look up at him. Why are you different from the others?" she asked quietly. "Everyone else? They only wanted me to obey, to perform. You You do not, he met her gaze, unwavering. Because I do not see you as an object. I see you as a life, a person. That changes everything. Her chest tightened. Could she believe him? Could she allow herself to hope? She did not answer immediately, only nodded slightly. It was enough for now. The fire crackled, and the cave seemed smaller, safer. For the first time in years, she felt a fragile sense of calm. She was still scared. She was still wary. But she began to believe that maybe, just maybe, the galaxy had room for kindness. The man leaned back, keeping his eyes on her, not in judgment but in quiet patience. He knew the journey ahead was long and trust was fragile, but he would not rush her. He would not demand her obedience. He would protect her, and in time perhaps she would see the truth of his intentions. Outside, the desert was harsh and wild, but inside, the firelight and quiet words had created a small sanctuary. A sanctuary where fear could slowly be replaced by hope, and where understanding, delicate, cautious, but real, could begin to grow. And for the first time, the young alien woman dared to imagine a future that was not dictated by cruelty, but by choice, and perhaps by the kindness of one unexpected human. The night outside the cave was silent, too silent. The wind had calmed, leaving only the distant cries of desert predators. The young alien woman sat near the fire, her eyes heavy with exhaustion, but she could not sleep. The man was checking the vehicle outside, ensuring it was ready for the next part of their journey. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the cave entrance. The woman stiffened. Her instincts screamed that something was wrong. She whispered, "Someone, or something is coming." The man's head snapped up. "Stay close," he said, reaching for a small weapon on his belt. His eyes scanned the darkness outside. The shadows of the mountains danced as the firelight flickered, creating shapes that seemed alive. From the darkness, a figure emerged. At first it looked like a man, but as it stepped closer, its form shifted unnaturally. Its skin was a deep, shadowy black, almost blending with the night. Long, jagged claws clicked against the rocks. Its eyes glowed a fierce red. The woman gasped and stumbled backward. "What is that?" she asked, her voice trembling. The man's voice was calm but firm. "A hunter from the desert tribes. They do not welcome intruders. We must defend ourselves." The creature moved fast, faster than the eye could follow. It leapt toward the cave with unnatural speed, its claws scraping the stone. The man raised his weapon, a sleek plasma blaster, and fired. A beam of blue light struck the creature, but it did not stop. It snarled and lunged again. The woman ducked behind a rock. "It's too strong," she cried. He kept firing, each shot precise. Sparks flew as the blasts hit the cave walls. The creature circled them, looking for a way to attack. Its growls echoed like thunder. The man's heart raced, but his hands were steady. He could not afford to panic. The woman's life depended on him. Suddenly, the creature lunged at the woman. She screamed, frozen in fear. The man reacted instantly, diving in front of her. The creature's claws scraped his armor, tearing it slightly, but he held his ground. He fired point blank, the blue beam striking the creature's chest. It roared and staggered backward. The woman's eyes widened. How are you so calm?" she asked, awe mixed with fear. He did not answer. His focus was entirely on the battle. "You must move," he shouted. "Follow me deeper into the cave." They ran, the creature hot on their heels. The cave twisted and turned, narrow passages forcing them to dodge and slide. Rocks fell around them as the creature smashed through walls, its strength terrifying. The woman stumbled once, but the man caught her arm. "Stay with me," he commanded. Finally, they reached a small chamber within the cave. The man blocked the entrance with a heavy boulder, creating a barrier between them and the attacker. The creature pounded against it, growling in frustration. The woman collapsed to the ground, panting. We barely made it," she said, her hands trembling. The man knelt beside her. "Yes, but we did. And we will survive. You must remember, fear is natural, but courage is choice. You chose to stay with me, and that choice saved your life." She looked at him, her eyes wide and glistening. I don't understand. Why do you risk yourself for me?" He smiled faintly, though his hands were still tense from the fight. "Because your life is not meaningless, and because in a galaxy full of cruelty, someone must choose kindness. Someone must stand against darkness even when it hunts us like prey." The fire in the chamber flickered, casting long shadows across their faces. The woman shivered, not just from fear, but from a strange new feeling, trust. For the first time, she believed that someone could truly care for her, not as property but as a life worth saving. Suddenly, the cave floor trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. The creature was not gone. It was trying to break through. The man grabbed the woman's hand. "We have no time," he said urgently. "Follow me. There is a secret passage I found when scouting. It leads out of the mountains." She nodded, fear and determination warring in her chest. Together they ran through the narrow tunnel, the sound of the creature's roar echoing behind them. The passage twisted and dipped, dark and suffocating, but the man's presence gave her courage. After what felt like hours but was only minutes, the tunnel opened to a cliffside overlooking the desert. The first light of dawn painted the sands in orange and gold. The creature was nowhere in sight, but the scars of the attack lingered in their minds. The woman looked at him, awe and gratitude shining in her eyes. You saved me again," she whispered. He nodded, his gaze scanning the horizon. "And I will continue to do so. There are more dangers ahead, but together we are stronger. You are learning to survive, to trust, to fight, and that is the first step toward freedom." The wind carried the distant echoes of the desert, reminding them that the world outside was still dangerous. But in that moment, standing on the cliff, the woman felt something new, a sense of possibility. For the first time in her life, she realized that she might live not just as prey, but as someone with choices. Someone with hope. The man placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We move forward," he said. "No matter what waits, we will face it together. And you will learn that the galaxy is not only cruel, it can be kind too if we have courage to make it so." The young alien woman nodded, gripping his hand tightly. She did not fully understand what lay ahead, but one thing was certain. With him, she could face anything. And as the sun rose over the desert, their journey continued, filled with danger, trust, and the fragile, growing bond between two beings from different worlds, one human, one alien, but both determined to survive. The desert stretched endlessly before them, golden sands rippling under the morning sun. The wind had died down, leaving only a heavy silence. The young alien woman walked beside the man, her steps hesitant. Her body still trembled from the attack of the previous night, her mind filled with both fear and curiosity. "Why do you keep helping me?" she asked quietly, her voice almost lost in the soft whisper of the wind. The man glanced at her, his expression unreadable. "Because I promised," he said simply. "And promises are more important than fear. More important than money, more important than survival alone." She looked away, unsure what to say. Promises. Such a simple word, yet in her world it had almost no meaning. People promised, yes, but they rarely kept them. He had kept his promise twice already, risking himself to save her. Her chest tightened with a mix of awe and something else, something unfamiliar. They walked in silence for a while. The desert was beautiful yet harsh. The sun blazed overhead, making the sand shimmer like tiny diamonds. The man led her carefully, stepping over jagged rocks and through hidden paths he had scouted earlier. Finally, they reached a small oasis, a cluster of green amidst the endless gold. Water trickled into a shallow pool, and palm trees provided welcome shade. The man gestured toward the water. "Drink, eat, rest. You need strength for what comes next." She knelt by the water, cupping it in her hands, watching the clear liquid ripple. She drank slowly, savoring it. She hadn't tasted water this pure in a long time. Afterward, she sat back, her eyes fixed on the man. You care for me in a way no one ever has," she said, her voice trembling. I don't know if I can trust it fully yet." He nodded slowly. "Trust cannot be forced. It grows slowly with actions and patience. That is why I do not demand it from you. I only ask you to watch and decide for yourself. Do my actions match my words?" She thought for a long moment, then nodded. "Yes, mostly. You fight for me, protect me. You don't treat me like a thing." He gave a faint smile, a small warmth in his eyes. "That is all I can do. The rest is your choice." For the first time, she felt a fragile sense of hope. Maybe the galaxy was not all cruel. Maybe there were humans who saw her not as property but as a person, a life worth protecting. Suddenly, a rustling noise came from the edge of the oasis. Both turned toward it, tense. Shadows moved between the palm trees, fast and deliberate. The man immediately reached for his weapon, his body alert. The young alien woman froze, instinct taking over. Her survival skills, honed from years of cruelty, told her to hide. but something in the man's calm stance gave her courage. She stayed by his side, watching. From the shadows, a group of figures emerged, desert scavengers armed and dangerous. They had heard of a human traveling with an alien female, and greed had brought them here. The man did not panic. He stepped forward, placing himself between the woman and the scavengers. "This ends now," he said firmly. "Leave or face the consequences." One of the scavengers laughed, raising a weapon. "And what can you do? You're just one man and her. She's just a prize we'll take." The woman's stomach churned. Her hands trembled, but she did not run. She watched him carefully, noticing something she had not before. The calm strength in his eyes. He was ready to fight, ready to protect her no matter the danger. The scavengers attacked. The man moved with precision, his weapon firing controlled bursts of light. The young alien woman ducked behind a rock, her body tense. One of the scavengers tried to flank them, but the man's reflexes were faster. He disarmed the attacker, sending him sprawling to the sand. She realized then that he truly was different from everyone else she had known. He did not fight for power, for greed, or for status. He fought to protect, to save, to give her a chance. As the last scavenger ran defeated, the man lowered his weapon. His chest heaved, but his eyes were calm as he turned to her. "Are you all right?" he asked. She nodded, feeling a strange warmth in her chest. "Yes, because of you." He gave a faint nod. "Remember this feeling. Trust is fragile, like glass. Handle it carefully or it breaks, but it can also shine if nurtured." The woman looked at him, her silver eyes reflecting the sunlight. For the first time, she wanted to believe in something beyond survival. She wanted to believe that someone could see her as more than what she had been sold to be. Can I ask you something?" she said quietly. "Anything," he replied. Why do you do all this for me? Why risk your life when it would be easier to leave me?" He looked at her, his face serious. "Because I believe in more than myself. I believe in justice and kindness and giving life a chance to be better. And because no one else will, someone has to stand for what is right, even if it's dangerous." Her chest tightened. For the first time she felt seen, valued, and she realized that her feelings were changing. She no longer saw him as just a human who saved her. She saw him as someone she could rely on, someone she could trust, someone who might truly care for her as a person. The wind whispered through the oasis, carrying the scent of palm trees and water. The desert seemed less threatening now, and the young alien woman allowed herself a small smile. Maybe trust could grow, slowly. Maybe hope could exist even in the harshest worlds. And maybe, just maybe, she could learn to survive not alone but with someone by her side. The man sat beside her, his presence quiet but steady. Together they watched the sun rise higher in the sky, the golden light washing over the desert. It was a new day, a day of fragile trust, growing hope, and the first true steps toward freedom. And in that moment, both human and alien understood something vital. Survival was not just about escaping danger. It was about learning to trust, to hope, and to believe that even in a cruel galaxy, kindness could shine like a beacon in the darkness. The desert sun had climbed high, burning the sand into waves of shimmering heat. The young alien woman walked beside the man, her steps steadier than before, yet a faint unease lingered in her chest. She had begun to trust him, to believe in his strength and kindness. But the galaxy was unforgiving, and peace was always fragile. They had been traveling for hours, following a hidden path the man had discovered long ago. The wind carried whispers of sand and danger alike. Suddenly the man halted, holding up a hand. "Wait," he said, eyes scanning the horizon. The woman followed his gaze and saw it, a small group of figures moving swiftly across the dunes. Their shapes were familiar, yet something about their movement was wrong. The man's jaw tightened. "Desert raiders," he muttered. "They are not after riches. They are after you." Her heart skipped a beat. "Me?" she asked, panic rising. "Why would they want me?" He didn't answer immediately. His eyes were sharp, calculating. "Some call you property. Others call you a trophy. There are many who would kill to possess what you are, what you can become." The woman's hands trembled. I thought I was free now." "You are," he said firmly. "But freedom is always at risk. And trust is the only shield stronger than any weapon." Before she could respond, the raiders attacked. Sand erupted around them as plasma bolts streaked across the desert sky. The man reacted instantly, pulling her behind a large rock formation. "Stay low," he shouted, firing precise bursts at the approaching enemies. She ducked, watching in awe as he moved like a shadow, calculating each shot. But then something happened that made her stomach twist, a faint signal from one of the raiders. A hand raised, and it looked familiar. The woman squinted, trying to focus. Her eyes widened. One of the attackers was wearing a symbol she had seen before, the insignia of a group she had once called allies, the ones who had sold her into captivity. Betrayal cut through her like a knife. They were supposed to help me, she whispered, voice shaking. They promised protection. The man's eyes hardened. Promises mean nothing to those who seek only gain. But we will not fail. We fight and we survive. The raiders surged closer, plasma fire scorching the sand. The man blocked her with his body, shielding her from a direct attack. Sparks flew as his weapon met theirs. The young alien woman realized something. She could no longer just watch. She had to act. Summoning all her courage, she picked up a fallen energy blade from the sand. Its hum vibrated through her hands, strange and powerful. She lunged at a raider approaching from the side, striking with precision she had never known she possessed. The attacker yelped and stumbled, giving the man an opening to neutralize him. "Good," he shouted. "Keep moving." They fought together, a seamless team. Each movement was instinctive, each strike coordinated. The desert, once empty and lifeless, had become a battlefield of fire, sand, and survival. Finally, the last raider fell, retreating into the dunes with a howl of frustration. The man and the young alien woman stood together, breathing heavily, sweat and sand clinging to their skin. She looked at him, eyes wide and glistening. Why did you fight for me again? Even knowing the danger?" He lowered his weapon, gaze softening. "Because no one else will. Because you deserve to live. Because someone must stand against the darkness even if it hunts us from every shadow." Tears threatened to fall from her eyes. I don't know if I can ever repay you." He shook his head. "You repay by living, by surviving, by learning to trust even when the galaxy tries to teach you otherwise." She realized then that trust was not just a word, it was a lifeline. And for the first time she felt a profound connection, a bond stronger than fear or doubt. But as they moved toward the next ridge, the woman sensed something else, a faint whisper barely audible over the wind. She stopped, hand on the man's arm. "Wait, I hear something." The man froze, listening. The desert seemed alive, the silence stretching unbearably long. And then it came, a soft metallic click. A device hidden in the sand blinking faintly red. "Trap," he muttered, eyes narrowing. "Someone is watching us," her heart pounded. Who would do this? After everything? He didn't answer immediately. His gaze swept the horizon, calculating, cautious. "We are not safe yet. Trust is fragile, yes, but we must act quickly. If we do not, that trap will decide our fate." The young alien woman nodded, gripping his hand tightly. Together they moved forward carefully, each step deliberate. The trust between them was tested, strengthened by survival. Yet the shadow of betrayal loomed over every grain of sand. The desert was silent once more, but she knew the galaxy was never truly quiet. Danger lingered hidden, waiting, and she realized something vital: freedom was not given. It was earned, fought for, and protected side by side with someone who chose to believe in you. The man glanced at her, a faint smile on his lips despite the tension. "Ready?" he asked. She nodded, determination burning in her eyes. "Ready." And together they disappeared into the desert, two unlikely allies bound by trust, courage, and the growing promise that even in a cruel galaxy, light could shine through the shadows of betrayal. The first light of dawn stretched across the desert, painting the sky with streaks of gold and crimson. The young alien woman and the man stood atop a high ridge, overlooking the endless sands below. The battles, the betrayals, the long nights, they all seemed like distant memories now, yet the weight of survival still pressed on their shoulders. She turned to him, silver eyes bright with emotion. "We made it," she whispered, voice trembling. "After everything, we actually made it." He gave a small smile, a rare softness in his features. "Not alone. We made it together. And that is the difference between surviving and truly living." Her chest tightened. She had never known such warmth, such security. In a galaxy that treated her as a commodity, a pleasure animal, he had seen her as a person. Not as a tool, not as a possession, but as someone with thoughts, feelings, and the right to freedom. The man extended his hand. "Come," he said gently. "There is something I want to show you." Curiosity flickered across her face. She took his hand, feeling a surge of strength and comfort. They descended the ridge, moving toward a hidden valley that shimmered with life. Unlike the harsh desert outside, this place was green and vibrant, with streams of clear water and plants thriving in the sunlight. Birds strange and beautiful sang above them. "This," she breathed, awe filling her voice. "I've never seen anything like it," he nodded. "A place where we can rest, recover, and plan. Where no one can take you from me or from yourself. You are free here." She looked at him, feeling emotions she could barely name. Gratitude, relief, something deeper, trust, courage, and perhaps even a spark of something that could grow into love. Suddenly, a distant sound broke the peace, a low rumble, unnatural and threatening. Her body tensed. "Raiders?" she asked. "No," he said calmly, eyes scanning the horizon. "Something larger. An army, perhaps. They heard of our survival and want to claim the desert for themselves." Her stomach sank. But before panic could take hold, the man placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "We are not alone. You have seen what humans are capable of. You have seen what I am willing to fight for. This is just another test, but together we can overcome it." Her chest swelled with determination. "Then we fight. Not as property, not as prey, but as equals," he nodded approvingly. "Exactly. And remember, even the smallest action can change the course of a galaxy. One life, one choice can make a difference." They moved through the valley, scouting and preparing. The alien woman noticed her own confidence growing. She no longer hesitated. She trusted her instincts, her skills, and most importantly, the man beside her. Hours passed, and the rumbling grew closer. From the horizon, a fleet of ships appeared, glinting in the sunlight. Raiders, mercenaries, and opportunists. None of them expected the resistance they would face. The man raised his hand, signaling readiness. "Stay close," he instructed. "Watch carefully. Move with me." The alien woman gripped her energy blade, her heart pounding. But fear no longer ruled her. She had survived capture, betrayal, and desert battles. Now she was part of something bigger. A human had shown her that courage, kindness, and trust could exist, even in a cruel galaxy. The battle erupted. Light streaked across the valley as weapons fired, sparks dancing in the air. The man moved like a force of nature, precise and unstoppable. The alien woman followed, her skills and instincts sharper than ever. Together they were more than allies. They were a force no one could easily defeat. Hours passed, and one by one the enemy ships fell. The valley remained intact, untouched by greed or violence. The man and the alien woman stood victorious, breathing heavily but proud. She looked at him, tears brimming. "And I never imagined this. That we could win. That I could be free. That someone could see me as more than what I was sold to be." He smiled gently. "And yet here we are, humanity. Sometimes it surprises even itself. You taught me as much as I taught you. Courage, resilience, trust. They are not just human qualities. They are universal. And today we proved it." The sun reached its peak, casting golden light across the valley. She felt a sense of belonging, a warmth in her chest she had never known. The fear, the chains of the past, the harsh words and betrayals, they all felt distant, like shadows fading in the light. He extended his hand to her once more. "Come," he said softly. "A new life begins now. No fear, no chains, just freedom. And choice." She took his hand, her grip firm and confident. "Together," she said. And this time there was no hesitation, no doubt. They walked toward the heart of the valley, leaving the desert and all its pain behind. Around them, the world seemed brighter, fuller, alive with possibility. And in that moment, both human and alien understood something profound. Survival was not just about enduring the past, but about creating a future worth living. A future where trust could grow, where hope could thrive, where courage and kindness could change lives. And in that new dawn, the galaxy seemed a little less cruel, a little brighter, and a little more alive, because humanity had chosen to shine.